If you're over 60, you've probably heard some version of the same advice 100 times. Eat your eggs, they're the best protein. Scrambled eggs for breakfast, hard-boiled eggs as a snack, omelets for dinner. Eggs get presented as the gold standard, especially if you're trying to protect your muscles as you age. And to be fair, eggs are an excellent protein source. But here's the quiet reality most people never hear. For a huge number of older adults, there's a seed-based protein that can, in practice, build more muscle than eggs, simply because it's easier to digest, easier to eat enough of, and easier to use consistently day after day. I'm not talking about some exotic powder from a rare tree in a distant jungle. I'm talking about a very familiar seed that has been on the table for decades, the soybean. In this video, when I say seed protein, I mean protein made from the soybean seed, soy protein in its different forms. Used intelligently after 60, it can match the muscle-building power of eggs in the lab and often beat them in real life, especially for your legs, your balance, and your independence. To understand why, let's start with what's really at risk here. After midlife, your body quietly begins a process that scientists call age-related muscle loss. You don't wake up one morning without strength. It's more like sand slowly sliding out of an hourglass. You feel it first in your legs. Stairs get steeper. Getting out of a low car takes more effort. You start using your hands to push off from chairs. You walk across a parking lot and reach the other side slightly more out of breath than you expected. That slow weakening has a name, but you don't need to memorize it to recognize what it does. It steals the muscle from your thighs and calves. It shrinks the engine that lets you climb, walk, protect yourself if you trip, or get off the floor. As that engine gets smaller, everything else changes. Your world shrinks to the distance you believe your legs can safely carry you. Travel feels risky. Dancing or long walks with a partner feel like a memory. Even intimacy and spontaneity are affected, because it's hard to feel confident when your legs don't quite feel like they're on your team. Most people are told a half-truth about how to fight this. They hear, just walk a little more, or eat more protein, or have an egg for breakfast. All of that is useful, but incomplete, especially after 60. With age, your muscles don't respond to protein the way they did at 25. You can eat the same tiny amount of protein you always did and get a much weaker building signal in your muscles. Scientists call this anabolic resistance. I like to translate it more simply. Your muscles stop listening to whispers. They need clear, loud instructions. Those instructions come from two things working together: movement and enough of the right kind of protein in a single meal, not a sprinkle of protein, not a lonely egg floating in a sea of toast and jam. Your muscles respond strongly when a meal delivers a solid dose of essential amino acids, especially one called leucine. When that dose is high enough, it's like flipping a switch inside the muscle: repair, rebuild, stay. For many older adults, eggs have been the default way to try to hit that switch. One large egg has about 6 grams of protein and a nice mix of essential amino acids. In theory, that's great. In practice, there are problems. To reach the kind of protein dose that most older muscles respond to, usually around 25 to 30 grams or more in a meal, you'd need 4 or even 5 eggs as your main protein source. Some people can do that comfortably. Many cannot. Maybe eggs upset your stomach. Maybe you've been told to watch your cholesterol and you're nervous about eating them daily in large numbers. Maybe you simply don't enjoy them that much, or you get tired of them. So you end up with 1 egg, maybe 2, surrounded by toast, fruit juice, and cereal. It feels like a good breakfast, but from your muscles' point of view, it's an underpowered message. You whisper, "Stay strong," when what your legs really need is a clear, confident voice. This is where our seed protein steps onto the stage. The soybean is a seed, And the protein we extract from it, soy protein, has 3 features that make it uniquely powerful after 60. First, it's a complete protein, meaning it contains all the essential amino acids your body can't make itself, including leucine. Second, in its concentrated forms, like tofu, tempeh, soy milk, or soy protein powder, it lets you reach that 25 to 30 grams per meal target without feeling like you're forcing down half a dozen eggs. Third, it comes with extras your aging body appreciates: fiber, beneficial plant compounds, and a lower load of saturated fat and cholesterol compared to a big plate of animal products. Researchers who have compared soy protein to animal proteins in people doing strength exercise repeatedly find something surprising to those who still think plant protein is inferior. When total protein and training are matched, soy holds its own. Gains in muscle mass and strength are similar. In some studies, a well-designed soy program performs just as well as whey or mixed animal protein. When scientists look not at one single meal, but at months of eating and moving, the message is clear. If you give your muscles enough high-quality protein, soy is not a second-class citizen. So, how can a seed protein build muscle better than eggs? Here's the key idea. The protein that builds the most muscle is the one you actually eat in sufficient amounts day after day, without wrecking your digestion, your cholesterol, or your appetite. For many older adults, that turns out to be soy protein rather than piles of eggs. Let's make it concrete. Imagine you want to give your leg muscles a strong signal at breakfast. Option 1, eggs. 2 eggs give you about 12 grams of protein, better than nothing. But below the threshold, most older muscles need to really turn on the building machinery. To hit 30 grams with eggs alone, you'd need 5. That's a lot of volume and a lot of cholesterol in one sitting. Option 2, seed protein from soy. A typical scoop of soy protein powder has around 20 to 25 grams of protein. Add a cup of soy milk and a spoonful of peanut butter or Greek yogurt, and your breakfast shake easily reaches that 30-gram mark. Or skip the powder entirely. A portion of firm tofu scrambled with vegetables, plus a sprinkle of cheese, or a bowl of soy yogurt with nuts and seeds can do the same job without feeling heavy. Your stomach gets a manageable meal. Your muscles get a clear signal. Your heart gets less saturated fat. There's another advantage. As we age, chewing, swallowing, and digesting dense foods can become more demanding. Dental issues, dry mouth, changes in digestive enzymes, medications, all can make large portions of meat or eggs feel like too much work. Smooth, soft, seed-based proteins, like shakes, tofu, soy yogurt, slide down more easily. That means you're more likely to hit your protein goals on days when your appetite is small. And the muscle doesn't care whether its leucine came from an egg white or a soybean. It cares that it arrived. Soy seed protein also helps you with something your heart and circulation worry about after 60, cholesterol and blood vessel health. While eggs themselves are not the villains they were once made out to be, many older adults already carry a history of high LDL cholesterol, stents, heart attacks, or strokes. In that context, getting a large share of your daily protein from a source that is naturally low in saturated fat and cholesterol while still supporting muscle can be a very smart trade. You protect your legs without overloading your arteries. Now, none of this means you have to ban eggs from your life. They can still be part of your menu. The point is that if eggs alone are not helping you eat enough protein, and if health concerns or appetite make it hard to rely on them, you have another option that is just as powerful for your muscles and often easier to manage. This seed protein from soy. Let's bring this down to the level of your kitchen and your daily routine. After 60, your goal is not just eat more protein. Your goal is to send your muscles 3 strong signals each day at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. using meals that each deliver enough high-quality protein to get past anabolic resistance. For most older adults, that looks like roughly 25 to 30 grams per meal, sometimes more if your body size is larger, or you've lost a lot of weight or muscle recently. Eggs can certainly help you build those meals. But our soy seed protein can make the job much easier. Think of it as a toolbox with several shapes. Tofu or tempeh for savory dishes. Soy yogurt for quick bowls. Soy milk for cereals and smoothies. Soy protein powder for concentrated shakes. Edamame, young soybeans, as a snack or salad topping. Each of these is a different doorway into the same house. Essential amino acids, including leucine, in a form that travels well through an older digestive system. Picture a breakfast built around seed protein. You pour soy milk into a blender. Add a scoop of soy protein powder, a handful of berries, perhaps half a banana, and a spoon of ground flaxseed. In less than 2 minutes, you have a smooth drink with 30 grams of protein, fiber, and healthy fats. You drink it slowly while reading or listening to the news. By the time you rinse the glass, your muscles have already started seeing amino acids. Compare that with a typical light breakfast: coffee, toast, jam. In one scenario, your muscles wake up to a strong message. Here's what you need, let's rebuild. In the other, they wake up, look around, and find almost nothing to work with. Repeat that difference 6 days a week for a year, and you have 2 very different futures for your legs. Lunch and dinner can follow the same principle. Instead of a small strip of meat with a big pile of white rice, you might build a plate that mixes animal and seed proteins, grilled chicken with a side of stir-fried tofu and vegetables, or a hearty chili made with meat and soy crumbles, or a stew built on lentils and cubes of tempeh. The more often your plate includes a generous portion of this seed protein, the easier it becomes to hit your total protein target without feeling like you're forcing down mountains of food. And remember, protein is only half of the equation. The other half is movement. The protein you eat, whether from eggs, seeds, or anything else, turns into muscle more effectively when you give your body a reason to keep that muscle. That reason is load. In simple words, you have to ask your muscles to work. The good news is that you don't need a gym or heavy barbells to send that message after 60. Your own body weight is already a powerful tool. Imagine pairing your soy-based muscle breakfast with a tiny strength ritual. 10 slow sit-to-stands from a sturdy chair, holding on to the armrests if needed, or a couple of sets of heel raises at the kitchen counter, or a very short walk up and down your hallway focusing on firm, confident steps. These small, consistent signals tell your legs, you're still in use. The seed protein then supplies the bricks to reinforce what you just challenged. Let's look at how this can play out in real lives. Imagine a man in his late 60s named Alan. For years, his breakfast has been 2 pieces of toast with butter, a bit of jam, and a cup of coffee. He loves eggs, but was told decades ago to limit them because of high cholesterol. He still eats them occasionally, but not enough to seriously support his muscles. Over time, his legs have grown weaker. He uses the banister for every staircase. Standing up from soft chairs is slow work. He dreads visiting his daughter's 3rd-floor apartment. At a routine checkup, his doctor mentions that his leg strength is lower than ideal and explains how muscle loss increases fall risk. Alan wants to do something, but he doesn't see himself frying eggs every morning or eating big plates of meat. A nutrition professional introduces him to soy seed protein. They design one simple change: swap his toast-only breakfast for a soy-based shake most days of the week. Alan starts blending soy milk, soy protein powder, a bit of banana, and some cinnamon. He's surprised to find it tastes good and doesn't feel heavy. His cholesterol numbers stay stable. His appetite for lunch is still healthy. After a few weeks, he notices that he's less desperate for biscuits at 10 in the morning. After a couple of months, climbing the stairs at his daughter's place still requires effort, but his thighs don't burn as quickly. He didn't become a bodybuilder. He simply gave his legs real fuel at a time of day when he had been serving them almost nothing. Now picture Maria, 72, who has always preferred plant-forward eating. She loves vegetables, fruit, bread, and small portions of fish. She's been told all her life that plant proteins are second best. That belief made her quietly accept the idea of weaker muscles as just her genetics. Her breakfast is usually tea and fruit. Walking has become harder. She describes her legs as hollow in the afternoons. One day, a friend mentions that soy protein is a complete protein, and that carefully planned plant diets can absolutely support muscle. Curious, Maria reads and talks with her health team. They confirm that moderate soy is safe for her, and that her current diet is falling well short of the protein amounts recommended for older adults who want to protect muscle. Maria experiments with tofu scramble instead of jam on toast, soy yogurt with nuts and berries instead of tea and fruit alone, and a small soy protein shake on days when she's not hungry. Her total protein intake rises, but she doesn't feel weighed down. She also starts doing a tiny strength routine in the living room a few times a week. Months later, her body has not turned into an athlete's, but her legs feel more trustworthy. She goes back to walking with a friend in the park instead of cutting the route short every time. Think of a couple in their mid-60s, Tom and Layla. They both worry about aging, but in different ways. Tom's family has a history of heart disease, so he is wary of high cholesterol foods. Layla worries about losing independence. Her mother spent her last years in a chair, unable to stand without help. Their breakfast tradition is toast, marmalade, and a shared omelet of 2 eggs. It's cozy, but it delivers only a modest amount of protein for 2 people and not much support for their goals. They decide to redesign their mornings. They keep their coffee and conversation but change the centerpiece. 3 mornings a week, they make a big blender of soy-based smoothie, soy milk, soy protein, fruits, and some oats. On the other days, they keep the omelet, but add a side of tofu cubes, sautéed with vegetables, or a bowl of soy yogurt. They also introduce a shared habit. After breakfast, they each do 1 minute of sit-to-stands from a chair and 1 minute of holding onto the kitchen counter while rising onto their toes. Over time, this simple pattern does several things at once. Their total protein intake climbs into a range that supports muscle, without overshooting their calorie needs. Their breakfast becomes more filling, so they snack less on sugary foods. Tom's cholesterol stays under control because much of the extra protein is coming from a low cholesterol seed. Layla notices that carrying laundry up the stairs still takes effort but no longer scares her. Their seed protein mornings and tiny exercise ritual quietly move their bodies in a different direction. Finally, imagine someone in their late 70s, already labeled frail in their medical file. They live alone and often have little appetite. Solid food feels like work. Chewing is tiring. Breakfast is usually a cup of tea and maybe a biscuit. A home visiting nurse notices how thin their thighs have become and how slowly they stand up. Together, they decide to introduce a small but powerful change. A half portion of soy protein shake every morning, made with soy milk and blended very smooth. For this person, the seed protein is not about chasing big muscles. It's about giving their body enough material to at least slow further loss. Over time, the nurse notices that standing up from the chair becomes slightly less shaky. The person still needs a cane, still moves carefully, but the downward slide has eased. That small shake, with its easy-to-swallow seed protein, has become a daily vote for staying as strong as possible for as long as possible. Of course, anytime we talk about changing protein intake, especially after 60, we need to bring in safety and nuance. Soy is one of the most studied plant foods in the world and for most people it is safe and even beneficial in moderate amounts. But there are exceptions. If you have a known soy allergy, certain digestive conditions, or a history of hormone-sensitive cancers, your situation may require special guidance. If you live with kidney disease or severe liver disease, your total protein allowance may be different from general recommendations. That is why the smartest way to introduce this seed protein into your life is in partnership with a health professional who knows your history, your doctor, a dietitian, or both. They can help you decide how much total protein makes sense for you, how much of that can comfortably come from soy, and how to balance seed protein with other sources you enjoy. The goal is not to replace all animal protein. The goal is to build a pattern that your body, your lab tests, and your taste buds can all agree on. You may also have heard myths about soy and hormones, especially for men or for people worried about breast cancer. The reality is that moderate soy intake, in the amounts typically used in food and supplements, has not been shown to feminize men or harm most women. In fact, in many cases, it is neutral or even protective. But myths can be loud. If they worry you, bring them to your doctor instead of letting them quietly block you from a food that could help your muscles. There's one more subtle benefit to this seed protein strategy that doesn't show up on lab reports but matters deeply in daily life: predictability. Eggs, meat, and cheese often depend on cooking time, refrigeration, and sometimes someone else preparing them. A tub of soy yogurt, a carton of soy milk, or a container of soy protein powder sits quietly on your shelf, ready to be turned into a muscle-supporting meal in minutes. On mornings when you are tired, on days when you don't feel like cooking, that convenience is not trivial. It's the difference between skipping protein and getting it anyway. If I had to compress everything we've been exploring into one single sentence, it would be this: after 60, the protein that best protects your muscles, your legs, and your independence is not the one with the best reputation on paper. It's the one you can actually eat in the right amount, every day. And for many older adults, that means giving soy seed protein at least as much attention as eggs, if not more. You don't have to become a nutrition expert overnight. You don't have to transform every meal. You can start with one simple, practical experiment. Choose a meal, breakfast is often easiest, and make seed protein from soy the star of that meal for the next few weeks. Maybe it's a smoothie. Maybe it's a tofu scramble. Maybe it's soy yogurt with nuts and fruit. Aim for that 25 to 30 grams of protein. Pair it with a tiny bit of leg-focused movement. Watch how your energy, your hunger, and your confidence in your legs respond. And as you do this, remember, you are not chasing youth. You are giving your body, at this stage of life, the respect it deserves. Your muscles are still listening. Your heart is still listening. Your circulation, your balance, your sense of vitality, they are all still capable of responding. A simple, everyday seed protein, used wisely, can become one of the quiet tools that keeps you not just alive, but strong enough to live the way you want. If this idea resonates with you, let it turn into one concrete action. Put soy milk and tofu or soy yogurt on your next shopping list. Ask your doctor at your next visit how much protein makes sense for you and whether soy can be part of that plan. Try one soy-based breakfast or snack this week and notice how it feels. And if you know another person over 60 who has quietly accepted weaker legs as their fate, share this message with them. Not as pressure, but as an invitation. Because the story of your muscles is not finished. Every seed, every meal, every small decision still has the power to tilt it in your favor.